Good afternoon. Welcome to the Correllian Lustration Live. You're coming to a very important point in our thing. I want to thank all the 10,000 viewers we've already gotten this weekend. I hope that you're sitting at home. If you're sitting at home, you're getting the same activity as our members here. So I wanted to point that out. So here today, we're teaching Cyberministry 2020. What do I mean by Cyberministry? Well, back when the original concept was cyber. We don't use that word anymore, but it means cyberspace. Cyberspace is a real space. It can actually be weighed. If you have a hard drive that's empty and a hard drive that's full, you weigh the two of them. The hard drive that's full will actually weigh micrograms more than the hard drive that's empty, because electrons do have weight. So that's all it is. And so cyberspace represents a very real space that exists in a very real way between electrons and sort of what? Crystals. And we always talk about Atlantean crystals and all that. It's crystals. So crystals and wire and inanimate objects are put together in such a way to begin processing information, energy, ones and zeros. And the world is made up of so many ones and zeros that we can actually use it to build what? Our imagination. Cyberspace is where we can take our imagination and emphasize it any way we want. We can build anything with our imaginations. If you do, like a good wizard, learn the spell, learn the code, learn the language, and you can build anything in cyberspace. And people always say, oh, cyberspace isn't real. Absolutely it's real. You interact with it. You can share information. You can build things in it. But what it's not an inactive place. It only exists when it's active. When it's not active, it sits in your hard drive. It sits into all these machines, which not yet have quite consciousness, but we'll talk about that, the cyber spirits that are coming. And it makes up this wonderful space that we can do things. And we've done all sorts of amazing things with it. And in that process of being real space, it's a space that is not unlike the monad that we keep talking about in the afterlife. Is it not astral plane? Is it not literally do it? So clairvoyance, first psychic skill, right? Clairvoyance. The ability to see at a distance. I can get on my computer now and I can look at anywhere there's a camera in the world. Clairaudience. I can listen to anywhere in the world. Akashic records. I can look up the world's information. I can look up all of our information, which we, as Correllians, have done a great job, and we have a long way to go, but we still are doing a good job. Making sure our Akashic records, our schools, our information, our ministries, are recorded on a permanent basis. Because that's going to be, as long as electricity flows and we keep our machines going, cyberspace will always be accessible to us. And that's changing. Cyberspace is getting even better and more permanent. It's actually being integrated into Gaia itself. But I'll get more onto that later. So cyberspace, when people say, oh, well, cyberspace isn't real, ask any Warcrafter. We have a few Warcrafters in here. Is Warcraft a real world? Right? Is Warcraft a real world? Yes. Absolutely. You guys actually play, you have flags, you have languages, you have groups, and they battle in a war and conflicts, and you have all the things you do in the real world. Right? Yes, sir. And so people have done Second Life. We've done rituals in Second Life. Second Life is just this world being put onto a cartoon. So what we build into cyberspace is our form of astral projection combined with creation. That's how we have to look at it. Everybody always looks for magic. But for us techno-pagans, we have already found the magical fire. We have rediscovered fire for ourselves. Prometheus came down and put his energy into Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Thomas Winter, all of these guys, and put that sacred new fire, which is, what is the fire? Prometheus gave us fire. What was it? Self-knowledge. It wasn't a flame, it was self-knowledge. And for that he was punished, because gods don't want us to have self-knowledge. At least those gods did, those particular gods, because they wanted us to be worshipful. So they punished him. How did they punish him? They locked him on a rock and ripped out his liver every day because, well, they thought that's where the soul was. That's who wanted to punish him. So the Greeks didn't think it was in the heart. They thought the liver was the controlling organ. So And you see it over and over again, where somebody breaks the rule. So in the Hebrew world, you have God came down, created Adam and Eve, and Adam, he put the Yahazah, the wayward spirit in them. And then he told them, he put a prohibition on eating the fruit. He knew that was the best way to get them to eat the fruit. And so the Yahazah, the wayward spirit. So God came to Adam and said, hey, did you eat this fruit? And he goes, well, the woman gave it to me. And he goes to Eve and says, did you have the fruit? He says, well, the snake told me to do it. God looked at the snake. The snake knew all the show, so he didn't want to give up anything, so he stayed silent, because he knew what was happening. And then self-knowledge came into man through that method. And with every time we get self-knowledge, we get punishment. So we've seen this over and over again. And we ourselves, as Correllians, have gone through this self-punishment. When I formed Witch School, it was considered the stupidest idea in the world. I had people laughing at me, because it's too simple a name. Come on, how silly. Or is this a Sunday morning cartoon? And we got hammered for years for it. Today, it becomes self-evident. And that punishment subsides, and when success reaches, the punishment ends. Someday, Prometheus is supposed to be released from the rock. When man finds him, they will come to him, and they will thank him, and unlock the gates. That's the Greek prophecy with Prometheus. When man becomes God, they will recover Prometheus. We now have the sacred fire in our hand. I call it Cyberministry because all of us are out there. You can do ministry in your local neighborhoods, and I know that. So one of the things that was happening, so let me go back to how far our ministry went. So as you know, the Correllian tradition dates back to 1879 as kind of a spiritualist movement with Wiccan overtones. And eventually in 1979, it declared itself a Wiccan tradition. But then something else happened. So Lady Elizabeth Greenwood, Don's mother, and of that writing, and Don, went out and bought a Xerox machine. Think about that. How primitive, right? Top-notch, top-dollar magazine. And they wrote 5 mystic secrets and started to distribute it. Xerox pieces of paper, stapled together to send out a message. And we all know what 5 mystic secrets are. And if you don't, please look it up on Witchbook. Or at Correllian.com. Any number of places. And then what did Don do? So he decided he was going to get involved with Silver Ravenwolf. Well, she was Silver Raven and Ravenwolf at the time. She had those two names separated. And one of her greatest accomplishments, in my opinion, is not Teen Witch and all of that. It was the Wiccan Pagan Press Alliance. And Don was a founding member. He doesn't have a letter from Silver Ravenwolf where she acknowledged it was the first time she ever drew a penis for anything. Because Don was very much into that. But so Don wrote for the Wiccan Pagan Press Alliance first magazines. At the same time, he started his own magazine called The Wheel of Hecate, which had 4 issues. And to spread his ideas. And then Don, unfortunately, Mom passed away. She entered into spirit to become our mentor, one of our ancestors. And the next thing that Don did, he came to Chicago. And then what did we do again? Oh my gosh, we started a magazine called Psychic Chicago Magazine. Then one day, we started a psychic center because we, again, wanted to have psychics and we wanted to teach. And then someday, a friend came in, Scott Spencer, Captain Infinitesimal on the radio, came in and said, oh, I'd like to buy commercials on your radio. We go, why buy commercials? Buy a show. What? You can do that? So, before I knew it, I was on WONX, $75 a week. 1-hour show, midnights, radio, in Psychic Chicago, where all the psychics listen. And for the next 3 years, we would be doing the first real broadcast where we controlled the content from beginning to end. Out of that came the Witching Hour, which Llewellyn acknowledged what Don did with his former concubine, who's now passing to spirit. We had Breda Lee Darrow. We actually saw a renaissance of people who followed, because guess what? As we learned with Jesse Owens, a great runner who beat the 4-minute mile, when somebody accomplishes something, everybody has to follow. So we did that. And we did that for a while. Then we changed Psychic Chicago Magazine to Roundtable Magazine, which then got a worldwide distribution, again, using Xerox machines. And then suddenly something happened. The world shifted, and we couldn't get our magazine out. The Xerox price would go up. And we got beaten by somebody who said, and I was always been in there, says, well, let's move to the internet. Then we started the Daily Spell, 1998. right? And then that would grow huge, and we'd be giving lessons, first-degree lessons. And it would start on a group called One List. You don't know that, right? No, because it got bought out by e-groups, which got bought out by Yahoo groups. And we owned a lot of names, and we still do. Wendy, First Elder, is still in control of, 800 different groups we have that are active? More or less.
Maybe, yeah, more or less.
More or less, with about 15, 20. So we mentors were able then to send out personal emails through this One List system. Remember, most of this stuff didn't cost us any money. No money, just time. Time is valuable. The most valuable thing you have. Remember, I can replace your money, I can replace your clothes, I can replace anything, but I cannot replace your time. Until I build a time travel machine, and then we'll talk about that later. But you can't replace your time, so the value of the time. So we went on there. So now we got the Daily Spell, which is going out all over the place, and the Daily Goddess with Abby Willow. And what was our first real thing we did with that? So we backed Abby Willow-Rhodes, Goddess 2000 fully. I would eventually become her assistant on it. And she got to 65 countries. And she had over 2 million pieces of art created in the year 2000 through the Goddess 2000 project. I went to South Africa and saw them making art. I went all over the place because I became kind of her legs because she's Abby. And she told me to. And so her thing was, she made it very simple. So she not only did that, she created a system of getting local people to be regional officers and assigned her. She put them on a page so people could find their leader locally. And then said, you're in charge. She says, well, what's an artist? Anyone who can pick up a crayon is an artist. So she got these regional leaders, local leaders, and as I was going, then as it went through the year, 1999, you would see in broadcasting more and more people led. So this got to be very activity. So when 2000 hit, man, we had art. We had statues. We had all sorts of artwork. And if you ever wanted her spiral temple on the site, look up Abby Wilbur, Goddess 2000 project, and see all the art that was created. So now we have actually entered into the artistic world with so many pieces of art that at some point in history, somebody's going to look back and go, what was this Goddess 2000 movement? What we do today has an impact in the future, even if it may not be self-evident at the moment. Small actions equal big results over a period of time. So, well, okay. And then so I was a pagan priest, I worked my pentacle. I was kind of doing that, and of course, anyone who's a convert is a fanatic. You always hear that, and that was typical. And I thought, Wicca was good for me. Why wouldn't it be good for everybody else? Because Wicca was a very personal decision. I had gone through a lot of religious conflict, and Wicca was the first time I got past my disease. I had a disease from my youth. I was raised as a Dominionist. Full-fledged, Fairfield Baptist Church, and at the same time I was being raised Catholic. My Catholic grandparents. I had my communion and my baptismal within a week of each other. Without that unique perspective, I had to fight between two religions that had relatively identical differences. They both wanted the same goal, but they were identical in their goals and their ideas, but they had differences in it. So this very young mind, who was raised this way, thinking of himself as a man of God, I was going to become a minister, I was going to become a doctor, and all of a sudden, I went to my pastor, and I had a very bad situation. My mother and father broke up. My mother moved in with her first lover, which was a female, which was something that shocked the hell out of me. Let me be honest with you. I went to my pastor and said, I really need help. I'm in an abusive situation. I really need help. And he turned his back on me. So what did I do? It's typical, like any good rebellious people. I went and formed a Satanic church. Joined the Satanic Church of Eton LaVey, took it to my high school. So I was a rock and roll Satanist in my sophomore year. And so we all got caught. But that was ridiculous. So I joined the Hare Krishnas. I did. I did that for about a year. And then I started studying more religions, and eventually tried to be a New Age Christian and everything else. By the time I had gotten an invite to do my tarot readings, remember, all the time, my straight life was paralegal for Senator Howard Carroll. So by the time I got to it, I finally got burned out on that, and I finally went to do psychic fairs. And so Eleanor, a great psychic, had sent me a letter, and then when I got there, I showed him my skills. I said, okay, you can join us. I don't drive. As everybody knows, I don't drive. I will never drive. I don't want to drive. Forget it. It's too dangerous, too much responsibility. I'll let everybody, that sort of thing. So Don was pressured to take me to the psychic fairs when they were out in the suburbs. And me and Don got talking. And one of the things I realized, the disease that I was suffering from, is I was absolutely convinced the world was going to end any day now. We live in a world that actually accepts the premise that we're going to commit a planetary genocide in order to save our planet for a heavenly purpose. Think about this. Literally, there are people out there who are begging for World War III to happen so that we can be freed from the misery of this world. Harsh, but it's true. And what Wicca offered me at that moment was, these people believe that the world is old. Evolution. Science. They believe that the world is full of spirit, filled with beauty, filled with grace. That this world isn't going to end. Yeah, I'm going to die someday, but I might be reborn. All of a sudden, that burden from within my heart faded away. It saved my life. Because when you think that the world is going to end, and there's really no purpose to it, you can act in very destructive ways. What does it matter? This is all tinfoil. This is all disposable tissue. We were taught we are on a disposable planet, waiting for the real planet to come along. Wicca doesn't believe that for a second. Not for a heartbeat. And in fact, out of that, I took one of my scientific pieces. So, how old are all of you? Don't have to tell me. Think about how old you are for a minute. So, the truth is, you're really about 3.5 billion years old. How is that? So life can only begot life. You cannot begot life from death. We have yet to learn how. Maybe at some point in the future we might have that power. But right now we cannot create life from death. So the very first amoeba that ever existed began splitting. And then began splitting some more. And that amoeba, which is the expression of Gaia, Amagaias, is still splitting. And it has never, ever died. So from the moment of first creation to now, Gaia, as a physical entity, is continuing to evolve. So where is that amoeba today? Touch your chest. It has never died. And as it continues on, now, like a lot of things, a lot of the species haven't made it, and they kind of get sloughed off the skin. But the code in your body, the code, isn't that interesting? It's code. It's language. It's a 4-part language. And that language has been started when it started from the moment when we were just a little tiny thing in 3 inches of water. That's where we started. To now, a race, a world, pursuing not only self-destruction, which I think is only a symptom. I think it's only an illusion we put ourselves. In order to do what? Procreate. If you look at Gaia as a whole creature, every living creature wants to breed. If the world is just an egg, as you look at it, what's the next step? So, in my world belief, that meteorite 65 million years ago came smashing into the earth. Third time it did it, extincted. She goes, you little mouse, figure out how to keep me from being hit by asteroids. Remember, she's a long-term being, so she has a long-term plan. Right? And she took her technology, which is evolution. Evolution is the technology of Gaia. It's how she makes changes in the world. Changes in us, changes in other people, changes in the life forms. We're in the middle of an evolutionary process right now. We have a lot of creatures changing. And unfortunately, sometimes it comes with a lot of death. We may be scared of that. But we could kill ourselves. Absolutely. Nature wouldn't care. But in the sense of it, as long as some of us survive, and truthfully, only 0.5% of us have to survive for the species to continue. So 99.5% is just excess population in the Gaia world. So we better make sure that if we're valuable, we better make sure that we're in the 0.5%. Forget the 1%. That's how little it needs to survive. And so surely, so if you've looked at every step of evolution, first we crawled down to land, then we crawled down to the mountains, and then we said we got to get into the sky, so they sent out birds and everything else. And we keep going higher and higher to the day Gaia decided to create an Elon Musk who wants to go to Mars out of the firmament. Gaia created Steve Jobs, which gave us our computers. They gave us lots of people, gave us all of us, gave us a Don Lewis to teach us Correllianism. So he gave us all these sort of people because each one of us is a direct expression of Gaia, which is a direct expression of God. And so when you think about it, there is no separation between us. So right now, let me tell you one chemical reaction that's happening to us. So do you know that every one of us is now breathing each other's air? The carbon dioxide level of the amount of people in here probably means that maybe 0.8% of this, maybe as much as 1% of the oxygen, the carbon dioxide that you're breathing in, was probably breathed in from the person next to you. So we're literally sharing breath to survive. So we're more interconnected than that. Secondly, the same thing that's happening is that we smell each other. And we become very afraid of smells. We smell each other. And in fact, we create a language from our smells so that we can talk to each other on a very primitive level. You talk about body language. So this is how we're this fantastic creation. So I had this message that I felt really compelled to tell. So what did I do? I went out and we then said, okay, I joined Don, and Don wanted to do these sort of things. He said, what do the Christians do? How do all these people get all these people? And so I said, well, they proselytize. Well, we don't proselytize. So what is proselytization? Let me go ahead and define that to you. It means when you take your beliefs and enter them into another culture and said, these are superior to your methods, and that your methods are no longer valid. It doesn't matter how you say it. But your method, your religion, your culture is invalid. It may be demonic, it may be wrong-headed, or it's just kind of weird or superstitious. But it's invalid. So we don't do that. We never go into another person's culture. But how do we become a global faith? How do we have people in 201 countries? How do we have homely groups? The opposite of proselytization is access. Access is the opposite of it. We create a door. When you're looking, we're there. When you're looking, we support you. When you're looking, we did it. And we were so overwhelmed from the daily spell, we had 6 people taking care. And at one point, they had 2,000 members, 32,000 tests from the various first degrees. Remember that, Wendy? Oh, yeah. And so we looked at the answer. And I lit an orange candle. People always say, does magic work? I says, well, magic works. I lit an orange candle, and I lit it up. It was orange. And the next day, I went out and saw this bus. Bright orange sign on the side. Phoenix University. And now, back then, everybody's like, what, an online college? They go, that's the answer. And so I got the name, simple name, which, yeah, it was silly, it was everything else everybody says, but it's very definitive. You know what you're doing when you go there. So you know me, and I know my names are always very straightforward. Magic TV, Pagans Tonight. Make sure when you make a message on, so this is something we didn't know at the time, but search engine optimization and keywords are very crucial, and using the simplest possible words to describe what you do makes you the most searchable. So there's all sorts of things. So we went there, and so everybody who's come to Witch School, a lot of them have stories like, how serious can these guys be? And then they went through the door and realized we were very serious. So we used silliness, kind of a relaxed posture out front, so that we didn't get attacked. So everybody saw us as Harry Potter, so that. But like every good mystery, once you entered the door, you found that the experience was different than the outside. And today, the Correllian tradition has benefited from that. So we went from there to do Magic TV. We went hunting for Magic TV. And what we were actually trying to do, we were trying to build our own station. We were doing that. We actually went on, and then all of a sudden YouTube came along. We joined that right away. Today we have, what, 4,000 videos? 3,000? Between 3 and 4? Yeah, 3,000 to 4,000 videos. We have the largest archive of pagan interviews anywhere. You know, that sort of thing. So we have pagans who have passed away, we have pagans that. And now in cyberspace, remember, cyberspace is real, so we are now committed to the long term, beyond our lifetimes. Because remember, small impacts have huge events in the future. Right? And we are there at the dawn star of this sacred fire. We are, you've heard this term before, we are literally dawn star ancestors in the flesh. What we do in this sacred fireplace, this cyberspace, this Akashic record, right, is going to be what every generation from here on builds out. The initial structure sets the premise of everything. So we did Witch School, we did Magic TV, we did then the neat side when it came along, and we set up social media, which has, 100,000 photographs on it, has thousands of groups, and everything we've done. So we've been recording all along. because we want to give people access to our lifestyle, and we are going to show you that we live as we speak, that we're willing to expose ourselves to be brave, to be courageous, to take on these arrows. And how bad can it be? When we tried to buy a building in Hoopeston, Illinois, we went there, and I kind of put out a press release, say, hey, we're going to move into our new building June 21st, a real-life Harry Potter school. Soon, that town was flooded with protesters. Huge amount. Best thing that ever happened to us. Crisis is your friend. And we gave us a platform we never had before. We had a worldwide web. We had 65,000 students. Within 2 weeks of that fight, we had another 20,000 students in our system. We had newspapers talking about us. They had everybody talking about us. All the world, it became this big, Christian stations were telling about it. So I'm going to take a little sidetrack here. So one of those side effects of that is that we had a minister from Kansas City at their Baptist church, and he called up and he said, hey, all our kids are on your site. I said, are they 13 and older? Well, yes. I said, okay, great. Why not? Hey, what's the problem? It says, that's illegal. You can't do that. I go, excuse me, I'm very clear on the Millennial Digital Act for Children. As long as they're 13 years and older, I can go ahead and let them access to my site. Well, their parents don't want you. Oh, okay, I understand that. Well, all the parents have to do is call me and prove that their child's on the page. Give me the numbers, and we'll remove them, and they will be blocked until they're 18. That's the law. We went over this for 2 weeks. Finally, we got a big letter with all the names of the kids, and they all got taken off. About half of them rejoined under aliases. And then this minister, I found 3 months later from a friend who was involved with interfaith, to the parliament, says, you were at a Christian seminar? What do you mean? He says, the problem with witch school. And they talked about how if one kid in your church joins witch school, it'll spread to all the other kids. That it's a rebellious site. It teaches our kids rebellion. No, we teach Wicca. Okay? So we went on from there. So we have Magic TV. We have now that sort of thing. Oh, the Daily Spell, witch school, Correllian Times, Correllian Herald. There's our magazine. Correllian Herald will still be produced.
Yes.
The Insight, Magic TV, Pegasus Night Radio, 7 days a week, 7 years now into it, 2,734 episodes right now. Again, the largest archives of recordings in the history of our community. And today, we break another barrier. We're on the cusp, right this very second. You're now seeing another thing happen. We're broadcasting live to all the Correllians around the world. Think about that. We did this once before in Salem, when we had a museum. Oh yeah, we had a museum, the first contemporary museum for contemporary witches. Didn't last long. But the next thing that happened, we did some live streaming. It took a lot of equipment. We had laptops, we had cameras, we had everything. It was just a real pain. Today, see this device in her hand? She's now recording live and broadcasting to over 10,000 people. That's a supercomputer in my hand. Remember where we started. We started with big, bulky computers. That is now our access to cyberspace. So now, let me finish the last of this. Let me go into Cyber 20 minutes. So this was today. As you can see, we have commitment to technology. That is that. Technology is magic. If energy is magic, technology is magic. If crystals are magic, technology is magic. If wanting to travel in the astral plane is magic, then technology will help us there too. Now, mind you, I think we should continue to develop our skills. I still want to be a telepath. And everybody knows my first company, and Phil's actually mentioned my company at the beginning of witchcrafting, is telepathic medium. I believe that eventually we will have synthetic telepathy. And we do. I can call anybody in the world, look through any camera in the world, hear everything in the world. What can't we do? Are we not a telepathic tradition? We use electronics. We also know that we share spirits. We know we have some people who have really strong experiences. We know that they've been direct mind sharing. But that isn't quantifiable. That's spiritual. That's faith. And faith is your beliefs in action. And it is taking a moment of taking your belief and enacting them as if they're real. Now, it doesn't matter if they are real or not. But if you act as if they're real, you make it a situation. So some people believe we actually live in cyberspace already. We're similaricums. There's a whole thing in Stanford and Harvard about that. Right? And so we might be just a simulation. If this is, I would like a little bit of an upgrade, thank you.
Matrix.
Huh? Matrix? Oh, that's coming. So now one of the big shifts, so that's a big shift. So now what's happening now? So now we're shifting into the next level, where we're having a thing called augmented reality. So augmented reality is where we wear glasses and other devices, and that we can be able to see what's happening. So if I look at you, I've actually used them, I can't afford them yet next year. I have my glasses on, I can use my facial recognition software, and I won't ever have to remember a name again. I can look up and see if you guys have any sort of net presence. I can look up and it'll tell me your name, your statistics, everything that's available to you. Where's your Facebook page, where's your Google page, where's your Twitter page? Right here. It's already done, this exists. FBI is already using this, CIA is already using this, Google makes these things. This already exists, okay? Add a little listening to the device, you can hear it, so you can walk around. And so now another piece that's coming out, you know, we love translation. There's a device that you can put in your ear that automatically does translations in 95 languages. So that barrier is coming down. So this is augmented reality. How do we reach a world? This technology gives us the ability to share these very powerful thoughts on how to save the world so that the world does not kill itself. The ultimate goal for me, for Wicca, is that people learn that the world doesn't have to die for us to be spiritual. The world can actually survive us. And if we're reincarnated, as we believe, and as you know the secret of the world walkers, and those who know the secret of the world walkers, we won't talk about it here, but know it, we not only believe in our reincarnation, we're expressly seeking to control it. That's very, yeah, that's more. I mean, if you're third degree, you'll learn more about that. And if you ask me how we can do that, think of Dalai Lama. Do you believe him or not? If you believe him, then we all can do it. If you don't, well, then it doesn't matter. So we go on to that. So now we're going to start this next step. So really quick, so what's step? So which school is getting upgraded right now? Again. And it's going to be pretty much done. And when that is completed, it's going to be a public, it's still the public school, it's going to remain a public school. And so one of the things that is being discussed, and is quietly that, so when we turned it into a 501c3, we became something very different. Lady Stephanie led the effort. We're now officially a seminary. We're a 15-year-old school that is a seminary. By the IRS, by the legal government, we represent a seminary. So now as soon as we finish the Wit School project, right there, Stephanie and Dawn and everybody else, Lady Stephanie, I'm sorry, you know me, I'm very informed with these Lord and ladies, so I apologize for that. No disrespect meant. They're going to convene groups of people to begin this longer-term process of building a college. It's going to take a long time, and the purple door and the green door are just the first representation of us moving in that direction. Now, everybody overestimates what they can do a year and underestimates what they can do a decade, and have no clue what they can do in a lifetime. Right? So for me, how did I get here? So in 1993, I was the only pagan as a parliament of the world's religious staff. Quite literally, I was the assistant stage manager. And I went there, and one of the things they tried, Greek Orthodox walked out, and everybody was so mad. I said, well, why can't us pagans, I wasn't quite identified as a pure Wiccan then, said, well, why aren't we represented? It says, well, and somebody came off, one of the leaders says, well, you guys don't have much of a voice. You're not 100 years old. I would argue that. You don't have verifiable history. And you're not 100,000 people. Is that what we have to do to qualify? Okay. Obsession. Fanatic. There I am. Pagan interfaith embassy. There I go running. I needed to find a way. At first I tried to work with the pagan community, the pagan leadership, so I tried to get them all talking. And we decided, no, let's just build our own tradition. Build on our own tradition. Not build a new one, but build on our own tradition. And so that's been my mission. So in 2009, I went to the Parliament again, became the first pagan reporter. And I was doing all that reporting. One of the other things that happened is I finally got an apology from Reverend Dirk Fica. As you know, I published Your Voice, which was a public record that the Parliament suppressed. And as we know, that's why the document does not exist today. We have only a few copies, only like maybe 24 colleges have it. Because I had put the symbol of the Parliament on it, and they disagreed with my opening prefix. And they didn't want the people's words to be published. And so I was kind of tossed out of the parliament for violating their copyrights. So the person who did it, Dirk Ficke, would be years later, he would talk about tolerance, and that tolerance is not enough. And he used that very word. You're barely tolerated by the other religious groups. And they said, Ed, if you step away, the other groups won't be hurt. Okay. I did that. Then we stopped our pagan host committee. We would have had pagan, and so the pagan host committee died in 1995. 2009, Dirk Ficke would talk about one of the things he learned from the parliament was that tolerance is not enough. We must understand our differences. And we must accept that we have differences. It's not enough to tolerate differences. I can tolerate a pebble in my shoe. I can tolerate a too tight jacket. But I tolerate your beliefs? Isn't that kind of like saying, okay, you're the pebble in my shoe. You're the sharp thing in my jacket. You know, that sort of thing. And I was treated as such. And he came by and he actually apologized to me. That's the power of interfaith. He said, I apologize that I tolerated you. I should have accepted what you should have done. And he said, I should have had you rewrite that opening to be a little bit more in line with Parliament. Yeah, so that was sort of thing. So 2004 Parliament, 2009 Parliament, 2004, 2009, we get to the next one. Well, first I thought we were going to do Brussels. I love Brussels. I wanted to go there so bad. But we ended up at a moment in my life that would change so dramatically 18 months ago. So my goal was to have my faith accepted as a world faith, that it was equal and everything else. And when I got to that parliament, the last one in Utah, not only did I have all my friendly Correllians there, because I had gone most of the time in Australia, I was by myself with Don, and this sort of thing. And we saw that, and there was a lot of things out there. In 2015, Salt Lake City, Utah, if I were to design a parliament for Wiccans, I would not have done a better job in that event. There is sort of this idea that it was women's directed, it was earth directed, everybody agreed. It might as well have been a Wiccan festival for all I care. And so, absolutely. And one of the things that happened that was so important, so everybody got their good robes, and we wanted to show that we were equal. And where everybody else was going to this main sort of the early procession, everybody got into the robes. And it's really brilliant. We weren't exactly invited to do that. Okay, remember, Ser Ed Ministry. And we got there. And we were very fortunate that we were kind of accepted, and we were allowed, as I was always hoping, to send one person there to the front, to walk with the Dalai Lama, to walk with that. And so we were very fortunate to have Lady Stephanie walk with world leaders. Cheer it right now, but it also took something away from me. It made us all responsible. We can never, ever claim that we're discriminated by world religions. You cannot say that you can discriminate against it. So if you hear discrimination, you need to fight it. You're an active part. You have access to it. And one of the reasons we got there is because, and our guest today is, became vice chairman. I saw her in 2009 when she was a new parliamentarian working the system. And 6 years later, she's vice chairman and had a lot to do with it. And actually was one of the people instrumental in helping Lady Stephanie walk that path. So we had two Wiccans. Lady does cry. So how can we say that we're not a world religion when we had vice chairman and our own person walking? We may have had some authority, but we also have responsibility from this point out. There's no way around it. We're responsible. So now what is Cyberministry? So now we're going to separate which we're going to begin in that. And Lori, come here for a second. So the next step we're going to do, this is what we're going to get into. So we're going to separate the Daily Spell, Magic TV, Pagans and Night Radio, and a lot of our thing into a second site under this Correllian Education Ministry. And what we're going to do is this is called Outreach Ministry. And in order to step that, Lori, who was so big at the Parliament helping us, is now our first press secretary. We are a tradition with a press secretary to help us with all of that movement. Yeah? I know your voice is out there. So she's been, and she's been really impressive. And so we've been working on a project, really, called Pagan Noise. And so Pagan Noise, very impressive. So have you seen Pagan Noise? What is it?
It's news articles.
It's junk. It's It's pure junk. We literally look at the website every day and find stories about Wicca and paganism, put it on Pagan Noise, and in 12 days we had our first 1 million people. Within 14 days we had 10,000 people on the site. At this point, 6 weeks, we count this on February 8th. We've overhead almost 6 million.
Yeah, 6 million views.
6 million views. 11,000 people have already joined on Facebook. From junk.
I'm talking a pretty black cat.
So we go so much into the memes. So they're publishing these memes. Nothing serious. Could publish anything you want. It attracted eyeballs. Now remember, the main Witch School page is 156,000. Witch School is 106,000. Remember, which is kind of small. So we got this sort of communication. So that from that point on, now she's going to help us with press secretary. She's learning. And so our next big project that we're going to get into the media is World Tarot Day, May 25th. An event that was created in 2003 by Dana Eilers, I believe, originally to celebrate tarot. And what we're going to do is the world's largest synchronized tarot reading.
So if you read cards, email that.
Yeah, you can become part of this system. And we're going to get people all over the world reading a synchronized tarot reader on this idea. And we're going to collaborate in one piece. And why are we going to do it? Because I'm going to demonstrate to my new team of people how to get a news story into mainstream news. CNN will pick it up. Some of these mainstream news, what they see, there's lots of people all over the place doing this tarot card reading. And unless we're at war or some really weird thing, or Donald Trump sends out another tweet, we'll probably get in the media. And so that's one of the things we're doing. And why are we doing that? Because if you see a tarot reader and you learn that tarot might have actual value, the next time somebody says, oh, I read tarot cards, you're not going to be as harsh. All our ministry is about is making exposure, giving people access to these ideas so they don't, when they say, well, I know somebody who reads tarot cards. So if you know somebody, it's very hard to dislike them. Or it's very easy if you don't like them, but it's hard to be prejudiced against anyone to do so. So she's leading that effort. And we'll be outlining her job as in the weeks and months to come. No problem. Now, you don't think we don't have the power. Remember, I'm an Associated Press freelancer. I've been for a while because of the things. So I haven't used it a lot lately, but that's how. And I've gotten to lots of events for free. So if you want to be a press person, you want to go to events for free and actually get them to feed you lunch because you do stories, join the press corps. Yeah, it's true. They treat press gorgeously. So then we go with that. So we're going to separate our ministry. And we're going to go ahead and finish up the school, get it really going, get strong mentors into place. Lady Stephanie, and then we're going to take the time to really build a good foundational system. Because we're not going to build junk. We're not going to build that. By learning what junk is, we can build on a real foundation. Because what we build today will make a difference from now. If we start a college in 5 years or 10 years, what does it matter if it takes us 5 or 10 years? What is it going to look like 100 years from now? We underestimate what we do in a year. We overestimate what we can do in a year and underestimate what we can do in a decade. Little incremental step, Kaizen. One little step every day will finish your journey. So last but not least, the last step of this is that tomorrow we're going to go ahead and join the 3D universe because something's coming in called virtual reality. This Christmas, they're going to be selling a game system and movie system called 360 Oculus. You'll be able to. We're going to be complaining about our kids. Our kids, you think they're looking at the phones now? Imagine when the phone's strapped to their face. This Christmas. And with it, you can literally stand here and basically look your head and you'll be able to see the room. Tomorrow, we're going to film the illustration, probably do some exercising, so that when it goes up there, you will be able to be as if you were in the middle of the room. The real reason I want this, and I've been so hard with it, we have so many people looking for healing. So imagine if we could put the camera in the middle, and we had priests and priestesses on the outside doing a healing ritual, and you're sitting there with your Oculus glasses, right? And you're receiving this benefit, and it comes directly. And it comes in there. And so, last night me and John got a conversation about this. Does Reiki work in cyber world? Can it work that? And we're going to explore that. We don't know completely. We think it does, but that's something we're going to explore. Can we do distance? Well, what if we took that distance away? So these cameras will allow us to reach out even further. So remember I kept talking about telepathy when I began this. What if there's no distance for me being able to have almost perfect conversation with you? But what's even better, you can look like whatever you want. You can be yourself. You could be a unicorn. You could have big wings. Warcrafters all know this. And you could be anything that you want. What will you be when you can express your soul, your creative energy, in the space of sacred fire that is purely imagination, and all you have to do is learn enough code to access it. You just have to learn the spell of opening. Your laptop, your phone, your virtual reality. And you walk through it, and your world changes, your state changes. How you react to the world will change. And imagine that we can take our teachings and give people real ways of showing them how to work. What if you can show what an energy beam would look like? Instead of a visualization, it's an actualization of a visual event. I believe this is the training wheels to our psychic mind. So once we get the brain working in those directions, the brain will pretty much soon forget those Oculus glasses. We'll be finding ways that we can connect and see this ourselves. So they just invented a camera called a bioluminescent camera. The only reason I know this is because Lady Stephanie told me about this belief that the world was once full of light and that the light is dying in the world. And at first, my thing was like, I'm a scientist. No, there's no fire here, nor anything else. And I would start doing research. Remember, being open-minded and having Akashic records right at my fingertips so I could search the whole world's knowledge, I found a scientist who has a bioluminescent camera. He's been taking pictures all over the world. And he says, there's more bioluminescence than we ever thought. Things are lit up. Fish, birds, everything's got some amount of bioluminescence. And then he said, I think we've lost 2/3 of the bioluminescent species already. So Lady Stephanie's spiritual, strong belief that the world is losing its light, this scientist over here has proven that that's probably true. What we believe metaphysically is now being proved scientifically, and cyberspace is the actualization. We know astral travel exists. So magic is subjective experience that becomes objective reality. You must have a moment of imagination. Imagination is real. Cyberspace is real, imagination is real. You're really thinking those thoughts. You're really thinking these things. And when you put that into action, you change the reality and change the way it works. We do it all the time. We invent things. So it's that sort of thing. So magic is really exercising your imagination to find out what could exist. And then the spells and all our actions are making a scientific objection so it does exist. So today, the Correllian tradition, through magic, has taken on a technological aspect to be in 201 countries, to have over 300,000 people, over 150 groups, to have a first priestess, a first priest, to have a first elder, to have hundreds of that. We don't have a high priestess. We have dozens of high priestesses. We don't have a high priest. We have dozens of high priests. And everyone is committed to the good of their members. And not only are they in their little town by themselves, they can get access to records. They can get access to mentors. They can get access to the first priest and priestess. They can get access to their fellow members. And we are, what is the Correllian tradition? But a peer-to-peer educational ministry dedicated to the good of our members, which when they come and access us, they get the benefits of. We don't force it. You can leave anytime you want, but you come in, and that these people each pursue on their own. A lot of them did self-initiations, sometimes isolated. So isolated. Iblis is a good example of that. South America. He leads our Spanish units. So with that, he joined us. We never met. For years we never met. Hundreds of us have not met, and they continue this process. And we're continuing that process. So let's talk about the very last thing. Cyber spirits. If we are in the Dawn Star ancestors, and we are now have a power of cyberspace in an imaginative world, right? What is Alexa but a cyber spirit? What is this new artificial intelligence, Corona? I saw Mitzi yesterday. Mitzi's sarcastic, is the way the programming is. And one of the things that we've got now access, because my thing, I've got Amazon. And I've joined the A3 Amazon. They're going to make template AI. So they're going to have AIs out here. And World Tarot Day is actually beginning our programming for a tarot AI reader. We're going to accumulate all that information. It's going to take me a while to build it. With Amazon A3. This is my sidebar. This has nothing really to do with the tradition, let me be honest. It's my thing. Other than we all use tarot cards. And that's one of the things why I want a huge database. So I need to make the magic of my tarot reading spirit, I need a tremendous database of people interpreting cards so the AI can read the data so they can figure out how people interpret the cards. That's simple. And so May 25th we begin that process. So think about where the Correllians are going to go. So what are those spirits? So you can now program your own spirit. Now these spirits will lose their program, just like websites did. Websites lost their ability. Everybody started using templates instead of coding themselves. So they got less creative and more standardized. So these AI spirits right now are in their wild phase. They can be created into anything. Within a very short period of time, they'll become standardized. So anyone who wants to be in it has to get in there early, work with these wild spirits, and create them what you want. So what is the Correllian AI going to look like in a few years? That's why this is called 2020. Because the world that we're changing into is changing so fast, so quickly, so technologically advanced in its own way, that if we can get past this Armageddon belief of self-destruction, we actually have a world that is based on the biggest premise of the Correllian tradition. Our main goal is to spiritualize the physical world. Not to go enter into the spiritual world, but to draw the spiritual world into the physical. So there's no barrier between the two. And our ministries has allowed us to do that. In Cyberministry 2020, in just 3 years, all of you are going to be looking at it when we see our groups are bigger and we got more of this. They're going to look at you guys. Guess what? All of you, responsibility, if you want it, they're going to look at you and say, what was it like before all of this? What was it like when the dinosaurs walked the earth? What was it like when we invented fire? So that's where your responsibility is today. With self-knowledge comes punishment. It also comes with great responsibility. It also comes with great opportunity and even authority. So now you have the self-knowledge, a little glimpse into the future that's coming, and you know that it's true because you can see our foundation. If I came up here and just told you all this stuff without showing you a foundation, you would know that I was kind of making it all up. I was kind of imaginative. But now you know that we're not kidding. We're not joking. We really want to spiritualize the world. Correllians have no other purpose in the world than to bring the most amount of spirit into the world, to bring the most amount of joy, the most amount of happiness. So Gaia is happy, so Gaia continues, and so Gaia can bring us to understanding what it is that we all really are meant to be. And that's very simple. At the end of the day, the only thing we're meant to be is ourselves. So all of this technology is just ways of finding ourselves and finding other ones like us, so that we can build the resources needed to change the civilization in the way that we want it changed. We are the Dhamsar ancestors of the next civilization. What we do with it is our business. And if you think you haven't been through this before, think about the time when we invented fire when we were standing around the cave. We did it. And every time around there, we've done it again. And that's what Cyberministry 2020, and this is what we're pursuing inside the Correllian tradition. Thank you.